What does it take to become a naturalized U.S. citizen?
My wonderful mother is back there. She made the decision to come here to the United States.
Now, there are those who wait and work their way through a complicated immigration system.
Came to the United States in 2003, did not speak a word of English.
There are also those who buy their way through.
The EB-5 Regional Center program has been plagued by fraud and abuse.
We also have the story of triplets. While they were born in the U.S., their parents were not. And now those parents will have to miss one of the most important days of their children's lives.
We're not alone in this. If anything happens, we have each other.
This is Arizona Week. Hi, I'm Nancy Montoya, in for Lorraine Rivera. In the past decade, some 6.5 million individuals have become naturalized U.S. citizens. We are seeing a new trend, though, seniors trying to become citizens. Now, these are people who have been in this country for decades. They no longer feel comfortable with only a green card. We begin at the end of the citizenship road.
I'm truly honored and humbled to be part of this special day for all of you.
After months, even years of studying and waiting, it is the final step in the road for them. In a few minutes, people from Burundi, Mexico, Afghanistan, Canada, the Philippines, and other countries will pledge their allegiance to the United States of America.
I believe that we live in the most wonderful country in the whole world. And I'm here to tell you that we're blessed that we live here.
With the start of the Trump administration, a trend has developed among those working towards citizenship. In Arizona, an increasing number are seniors, those in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and some even in their 90s. They are seeking their citizenship. Some say they no longer feel safe in their adoptive country.
Mi nombre completo es Héctor Manuel Romo.
¿Y dónde naciste, Héctor?
En Nogales, Sonora, México. Y me vine desde temprana edad a Estados Unidos, pero emigrado legalmente. Estuve trabajando en Nogales High School casi toda mi vida, muy a gusto.
¿Qué tantos años has estado aquí en Estados Unidos?
Tengo 68 años, unos 50 años.
50 años. Many, like Hector Romo, have lived for decades in the U.S. They are legal permanent residents who have raised families in Arizona and are retired from full-time jobs and receiving retirement benefits.
Mi nombre es Eduardo Molina Espinosa.
¿Y dónde naciste?
Yo nací en Imuri, Sonora, México.
¿Y qué tantos años ya tienes en Estados Unidos?
Emigré en 1990, voy para 27 años.
¿Y por qué a hoy? ¿Por qué ahora quieres ser ciudadano? ¿Qué está pasando en tu vida que tú ya quieres ser ciudadano?
Por los cambios que ha habido en la política de Estados Unidos y por tener una seguridad para mi familia.
¿Y por qué ahora quieres ser ciudadano?
Ahora me dice, soy ciudadano de los Estados Unidos, hoy, este día, porque me siento un poquito más tranquilo, porque sí, yo sé que puedo andar por todos los Estados Unidos, Las Vegas principalmente, el casino, el bingo, andar donde yo quiera, andar a gusto, tranquilo, sin que nadie me moleste.
Y cuando te dijeron, ahora eres ciudadano de los Estados Unidos, ¿cómo te sentiste?
No,
pasó?
pues sentí mucha felicidad, me sentí más tranquilo y ahora sí considero que tengo todos los derechos para votar y para participar en cualquier evento.
¿Qué tipo de americano quieres ser?
Quiero ser una persona que mis hijos se sientan orgullosos cuando ya no estemos nosotros. Eso es lo que quiero ser.
Now, while most work and wait their way through a very complicated immigration process, some also come in illegally. But there are also those who buy their way in. It's called the EB-5 visa, and it's a way for foreigners to purchase green cards. All they need is $500,000.
Welcome to our Learn EB-5 video, in which we provide valuable summary information about the EB-5 visa program.
Federal immigration officials don't call it a program for a foreign investor to buy U.S. green cards.
What is the EB-5 program?
Instead, it's called capital investment by foreign nationals to create jobs. When Congress created the EB-5 program in the 1990s, it did that. Now, the concept was that a non-U.S. citizen would invest $500,000 to $1 million in a U.S. project that would create at least 10 jobs in a rural or underemployed area of the U.S. in exchange for visas for an entire family, up to 10 members.
This would have provided long-term stability.
Fast forward to 2017, Democratic U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein and Republican Senator Chuck Grassley introduced legislation in February to get rid of EB-5 visas. They call the program a scam to get around strict immigration laws and buy your way into America. Senator Grassley is taking aim at the EB-5 regional centers.
The EB-5 Regional Center program has been plagued by fraud and abuse. It poses significant national security risks. There are serious allegations that the program may be facilitating terrorist travel, economic espionage, money laundering, and investment fraud.
Today, about 80% of EB-5 investors are from the People's Republic of China. In Arizona, Chinese investment through these visas is big business. One example of EB-5 money at work is a development in Casa Grande. It is an area of rural farmland within the city limits. Right across Highway 287 is almost 500 acres purchased by AZ Sourcing, a Phoenix company that is building a massive international trade center called Phoenix Mart. Its promotional material says that upon completion, it could add up to 10,000 jobs. Picture 26 football fields side by side. There are only 2 such centers in the world, one in China and one in Dubai.
My name is Marshall Stahl. I'm the CEO of Phoenix Mart, the project that's being developed here in Casa Grande. I'm also the Chief Operating Officer of AZ Sourcing, the parent company of Phoenix Mart.
When all is said and done, what will Phoenix Mart be?
When it's complete and the doors open, Phoenix Mart will be the largest global marketplace in North America. Basically, it's a 1.58 million square foot single level building that will showcase over 1,800 showrooms from manufacturers, distributors, and suppliers from around the world who will sell to buyers from across North America, Central America, Latin America, South America. In the Western hemispheres, buyers who are currently flying overseas to source product can now come to Casa Grande, Arizona to source their product.
While the shell of the massive building is up, the project has been hit with delays and controversies almost from the beginning. Court records show Phoenix Mart was the brainchild of Elizabeth Mann, a Phoenix businesswoman. Immigration records show she was known as Ming Wu until she received her U.S. citizenship in 1992. Mann was the head of COFCO in Scottsdale, a corporation owned by the People's Republic of China. She was instrumental in convincing Chinese investors to join the EB-5 visa program by investing $500,000 each. U.S. District Court records from 2015 showed that Phoenix Mart's parent company, AZ Sourcing, collected $150 million from 303 investors. In November of 2015, the FBI raided Phoenix Mart headquarters. Also involved the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and immigration officials. Much of the investigation is still under seal, but news media public reports say that millions of dollars were collected with little to show for it. And visas issued to Chinese citizens by law are only temporary until it can be shown that their investment did indeed result in job creation. Man now has nothing to do with day-to-day operations, but is still an investor. Under Stahl's leadership, in the past 18 months, a whirlwind of activity has been taking place at the site. Casa Grande officials are now confident that the legal issues are being dealt with, and Phoenix Mart, although 3 years behind its original schedule, is back on track. Paul Tice is the Planning and Development Director for the city of Casa Grande. Do you have confidence that this project, it looks like it's off the ground now and walls are up, roof is up. Do you have confidence it's going to go through completion?
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt this project will be completed within the next 18 months or so. Obviously, it's well underway. The building is, the shell's up. They'll be starting interior work soon, and then the utilities are being extended to the site as well, the sewer, the water, and the electrical service upgrade.
As for those reported 303 initial Chinese investors, turns out there are far fewer.
I'm Jason Cupo. I'm General Counsel for AZ Sourcing, the developer of Phoenix Mart.
How much money was raised through the EB5?
For Phoenix Mart?
For Phoenix Mart.
Sure. So currently we have just over 80 EB5 investors in the project. Out of those, a vast majority of them, 75% or so, have actually received conditional green cards and had their funds released to the project, and a number of them are actually in the process of applying for their permanent green cards. So they each were $500,000 investments, and like I said, we have a little over 80 in the project.
That means a little more than $40 million for what is described as a $100 million project. The new management at AZ Sourcing says it's pretty much out of the EB5 visa business and is seeking traditional investors to complete Phoenix Mart.
We are an EB5 project, but currently we are funding the completion of our project through our own sources.
And finally, do you stand behind the business practices of Arizona sourcing in this project?
Absolutely, yes.
Now, there are many in this country who say, why don't people just do it legally? Why don't they just get in line? Well, next we turn to Goldman & Goldman, a mother-son immigration law firm. They say sometimes that line is elusive and very often invisible.
Waiting in line is a fallacy.
So what I usually do is I pull out what's called the Visa Bulletin, which is the chart that is published by the State Department, and it shows the visa availability, and it gives you the idea of how many visas are available on a per country basis per fiscal year. And so I think the maximum per country per fiscal year is about 25,000, like 600 or something like that. And let's say you're from a country like Iceland. There's going to be visas typically available for all the different categories that people can be sponsored by either certain family-based or employment-based. But if you're from Mexico, there's a huge backlog. And that backlog, for example, for people who are siblings, U.S. citizens sponsoring their sibling in Mexico, could be anywhere from 20 to 40 years. And there's no real sign of what the exact time frame is, but the approximation is in that range. And some economists that I've read from different think tanks have come up with the approximation of possibly even 50 years.
Earlier we heard from senior citizens who had been in the United States for decades, legal residents here with green cards. Now they're moving to get their citizenship because they're afraid. Gloria, you see that?
We've seen a tremendous uptick on people applying for citizenship who have been here for lengthy time periods because they're afraid of what might happen to them based on things that wouldn't necessarily happen, but they're afraid. So we've had a tremendous number of people coming to us after many years who had been clients years ago who are now applying for naturalization.
Are those fears justified?
I would say on a case-by-case basis. It depends. And that's something very important to keep in mind, that every situation is different. Everyone's immigration case has its own very unique set of facts. And so I think what we've seen has been just a real dangerous recipe of, bad optics coming out of Washington, D.C., bad information that gets passed around to the community. Social media fuels a lot of that fear and anxiety.
But there is a way to buy your way in, isn't there? The EB-5 visas?
So there is, yeah. So EB-5, and there's a lot of press that has been negative on EB-5, and I will say the basic premise behind the EB-5 is job creation and bringing money, investor money into the United States.
So finally, let's just take the temperature of what's happening in your practices. How are you feeling about what's happening in our country in terms of immigration? What's happening? What's the temperature, Gloria?
Well, for the clients, many of them feel hopeless, and we have to work with them. Maybe we should have gotten another degree and some kind of help. but there's therapy. Sometimes we need therapy. But at the same time, I'm hoping that with so much of this going on, and it's out in the forefront, if you watch the news, there's many places cannot fill their job needs. And this is a problem because many of these people have gone under, or they're not able to meet the requirements of E-Verify, et cetera. And many places are having a hard time finding workers. So I'm hoping, against hope, that we'll get some kind of reform.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing right now is quite possibly the worst case scenario, because you've got bills being introduced that are strictly deportation focused, enforcement focused, no focus on what we're going to do with the 12 million or however many people are that are undocumented in this country. And so I would call on our congressional leaders and Senate leadership to really buck the trend that's going on right now and start to focus back on the way things were in 2013, in 2012, in 2007, when we were able to get some bipartisan agreement on immigration reform.
There was a time if a child was born in the United States and their parents were not, the parents would be given a kind of get-out-of-jail-free card, as long as those parents didn't commit a serious crime. Under the Trump administration, those days are gone. The result, parents and children are being separated. Next up, the story of U.S.-born triplets with Mexican parents. They are divided by law, but united by faith.
My name is Jose. I'm a high school senior. I live here in Tucson with my brother and my sister.
I'm Maria Yamileth, and I'm a senior at Ombudsman.
My name is Jesus Samuel, but usually what I do is just work. I'm here senior as well, but
Jesus, Maria, and Jose. Jesus, Mary, Joseph. Jose says their parents gave them 3 holy names because they were born fighting for their lives and needed all the help they could get.
We were born here. We were premature about 3 months.
The Chua triplets survived. For about a decade, life was pretty good for the family. While the triplets are U.S. citizens, their mother, father, and older sister are not. The parents had green cards and could work here in Tucson legally. The family would go to Mexico regularly to visit family. When the triplets were 10, their mom and dad left them with family in Tucson for a couple of weeks to head south. Jesus, Maria, and Jose were still in school, and their parents didn't want them to get behind. It was a family emergency.
Because my grandma, she suffered from cancer, and she was very ill at the time. So they went to go visit her, and that's when she passed away.
Also on this visit, their father's visa and green card were stolen. They tried for days to renew it, but were unable to. The triplets' father was stuck in Mexico.
And when my mom came back, she came back by herself because my dad had lost his visa.
And what did you think when your mother walks in without your dad?
I thought he would come. I thought maybe he was outside. I didn't realize he wasn't coming back. And then my mom talked with us. She told us what happened. We would visit. We tried to go once or twice, but we couldn't. It was very sad to think we wouldn't see him because we didn't know when we would see him again.
Jesus says the family chose to stay together. They all moved back to Mexico for 5 years. There, high school tuition is nearly free for Mexican citizens, so the older sister could go to school. But the U.S.-born triplets did not have access to lower tuition rate. The three, now teenagers, decided on their own that the only way they could get an education was go to the U.S. Their mother and father resisted at first, then finally agreed. There were some family members in Tucson who could help as much as they could.
We were all talking together and saying that we would have to just finish our education because we couldn't just afford going to high school. It was just too much expense for just 1 year with our sister and then all three of us going.
The three refused to be split up. Maria was more determined than her brothers to stay together. Why was it important for you to stay with your brothers?
Because our parents weren't with us, we needed some type of support. And just being us together made us know, we're not alone in this. If anything happens, we have each other.
And so their 4-year journey to make it through high school began. They lived with various family members and couch surfed. They did without, they worked, they sacrificed. Did you guys ever feel cheated in any way? I mean, you look around and you see some kids who have both their parents there, they have their own rooms, they have, plenty of money to eat and do sports and go out and go to movies and stuff. Did you ever feel cheated by that?
Not necessarily. Like luxury things isn't a big focus for us. We just wanted to be with our family. We just wanted to be able to come home and, go lay with my mom, watch TV, have that type of bonding with them. That was what we missed, what we wanted.
I miss the time where I leave food in the freezer. I come back later, it's gone. I yell, who took my last pizza in the freezer? Turns out my dad was eating it the whole time. God, miss those moments.
Have there been tears for you guys along this road that you're on?
Many, actually.
Yes.
Very salty, but they were.
Most of them was just being far from family because we weren't even used to being away from our mom and dad. I would always be working, but I was still with my family all the time. And then once we moved, it was hard. I couldn't just imagine just being without my family. I'd always thought I'd end up in the street one of these days just because I can't stand without being my parents.
But in spite of the tears and the tough times, they have stayed together, each with their own special strength. Who's the boss?
Maria.
Half and half.
Me.
Well, with her, she's usually like the boss, She tells us, hey, we need to get this done. We need to try to get all this clean and organized. Or she'll remind us, hey, we need to pay the bill this time. We need, let's see how much we could each pay up, She'd be telling us everything, how to do it.
Who's the funny one?
I guess I would.
Along the way, there was help, and not just from family, but also from organizations. There was Youth on Their Own, or YODO. The nonprofit supports homeless teens so they can graduate from high school. Let's talk a little bit about YODO. What has YODO done for you guys?
It's done a lot. We couldn't find jobs because we weren't 16 at least to find one. So when we entered YODO, they gave us a little monthly stipend.
I think if we would have never linked with YODO, we would have probably ended up back in Mexico because of that financial support, the food, the bus passes, That's how we were able to stay here.
Well, it felt good because I knew that if anything happens, I could just go in Euro and tell him, hey, I need a place to stay. If there's any way you can help me out financially or find a place within my budget. And, you know, yeah, I've already told them sometimes they were actually helping us a lot.
Ombudsman Charter Valencia is a small charter school that took the triplets in. Teachers and administrators wrapped their collective arms around the triplets and became the support the triplets needed. Let's talk about Ombudsman. What have they done for you?
Well, for me, they would actually they would stay in after class, help me out with any classes I have missed, help me with any questions. Like, they would literally help us in every single question we'd have. They were basically like family to us as well.
So a traditional school for you, Maria, wouldn't have worked. You needed something that was less traditional.
Yes, something more flexible. I like how Ombudsman offers that flexibility of double sessions, AM and PM. It's like he said, it's like having another family because they've helped us in so many ways.
They helped me look for colleges, how scholarships, how to apply, where to start, anything I need, like the fee waivers or anything, what I need to do to all that. It just helped me a lot.
On June 7th, Maria, Jose, and Jesus will graduate from high school. Their parents have tried to get visas in the past, and each time were denied. They have all but given up ever being able to get back into the U.S. legally. They won't be able to make your graduation.
No, most likely not.
And Jose, that hurts.
It does. We're just doing it just for them, and they won't be able to be there for us.
It's hard. It's okay.
And finally, on this Memorial Day weekend, a programming note. We invite you to watch Arizona Illustrated at 6:30 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. We honor those in uniform who served in the armed forces. Some made it back, others gave their lives for this country.
I grew up here in Tucson.
I was born in Agua Prieta, Sonora, Mexico. I was in Firebase Birmingham when an officer, I believe was a lieutenant, came to me and he says, Specialist Tapia? I said, yes. You know, you're not a U.S. citizen? I said, I'm not a U.S. citizen. He said, you know you're not supposed to be here.
I'm Nancy Montoya. Thanks for watching.